The air between them crackled with tension as Emma's words hung in the silence of her pristine office. "So, we're sharing a bed?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper, clutching the photo of his 5-year-old daughter he kept on his desk. Little did they know, this business arrangement would change their lives forever. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that will tug at your heartstrings. Jake Matthews stared at his boss in disbelief, wondering if he'd misheard her. The morning had started like any other, dropping his daughter Lily at school, rushing to make it to the office by 8, and diving into the mountain of paperwork that awaited him as Emma Chen's executive assistant. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" Jake asked, his coffee mug suspended halfway to his lips. Emma Chen, CEO of Chen Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country, rarely showed vulnerability. But today, sitting across from him in her corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, she looked almost human. "I need you to pretend to be my husband for 1 year," she repeated, her voice steady despite the absurdity of her request. "My grandmother is dying, Jake. She has maybe 12 months left, and her final wish is to see me settled before she goes." Jake set his mug down carefully. At 34, he'd been Emma's right-hand man for 3 years. He knew her schedule, her preferences, her business strategies, but this was venturing into territory he never expected. "Ms. Chen." "Emma," she corrected. "If we're going to do this, you need to call me Emma." "Emma," he said, the name feeling foreign on his tongue after years of professional distance. "I'm a single father. I have responsibilities to Lily. I can't just—" "I'll double your salary," she interrupted. "And provide full benefits for Lily, including that private school you've been researching. The one with the special art program she loves." Jake's breath caught. How did she know about that? He'd been saving every penny since Sarah died 3 years ago, trying to give Lily the education she deserved, the one that would nurture her artistic talents. "I notice things, Jake," Emma said softly, answering his unspoken question. "I know how much Lily means to you. This arrangement would secure her future." Jake ran a hand through his dark hair, his mind racing. What exactly would this arrangement entail? Emma leaned forward, her usually perfect posture relaxing slightly. "We'd need to live together to make it convincing. My grandmother is old-fashioned but sharp as a tack. Weekend visits to her estate in the countryside. Some public appearances. A convincing story about our whirlwind romance. And after the year is up? An amicable separation. You'll receive a generous severance package, enough to set you and Lily up comfortably. Plus a glowing recommendation that will open doors anywhere." Jake thought about his cramped 2-bedroom apartment, the second job he worked on weekends to make ends meet, the way Lily's face lit up when she talked about that school. "So, we're sharing a bed?" he asked, the question slipping out before he could stop it. A flicker of something, embarrassment? Amusement, crossed Emma's usually composed face. "My grandmother's estate has plenty of rooms, Jake. But yes, for appearances, we would share a suite when we visit. I can assure you I'll be nothing but professional." That evening, as Jake tucked Lily into bed, her small fingers clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, he wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. "Daddy, are we really going to live in a big house?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with excitement after he'd carefully explained that they would be staying with his boss for a while. "Yes, sweetheart. But remember, it's a special secret. Like a mission." Lily nodded solemnly. At 5, she loved the idea of secrets and missions. "Is Ms. Emma nice? Will she like my drawings?" Jake thought about Emma Chen, the woman whose reputation for ruthless business decisions had earned her the nickname Ice Queen around the office. The woman who somehow knew about Lily's art school dreams. "I think she might surprise us both," he said, kissing Lily's forehead. The first night in Emma's penthouse apartment was awkward, to say the least. The place was immaculate, all clean lines, modern furniture, and not a single thing out of place. Until Lily arrived with her collection of stuffed animals and art supplies. "I cleared out the guest room for you," Emma said, leading them down a hallway. "And the study next door can be Lily's room. I had it prepared." When she opened the door to what was supposedly her study, Jake couldn't believe his eyes. The room had been transformed into a child's paradise, a small bed with fairy lights draped above it, a desk with art supplies neatly arranged, and bookshelves filled with children's books. "When did you do all this?" he asked, watching as Lily ran into the room with a squeal of delight. Emma shrugged, a gesture so casual it seemed out of place on her. "I had my assistant handle it. I figured if we're doing this, we should do it properly." Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep surrounded by her new treasures, Jake found Emma on the balcony, staring out at the city lights, a glass of wine in her hand. "Thank you," he said simply, joining her at the railing. "For Lily's room." Emma didn't look at him. "I know what it's like to lose a parent young," she said after a long pause. "My father died when I was 7. My mother, well, she checked out emotionally. My grandmother raised me." Jake studied her profile, realizing how little he actually knew about the woman he'd worked for all these years. "Is that why you're doing all this? For your grandmother?" Emma took a sip of her wine. "Partly. But there's more to it. The board has been pressuring me to improve my public image. They think a family would make me more relatable. Less of a threat. So I'm a business decision," Jake said, surprised by the twinge of disappointment he felt. Emma finally turned to look at him, her expression unreadable in the dim light. "Everything in my life has been a business decision, Jake. Until now." The first visit to Grandmother Chen's estate came 3 weeks later. The sprawling property sat on 20 acres of manicured gardens and old-growth forest, the house itself a stunning blend of traditional Chinese architecture and modern luxury. "Remember, my grandmother speaks perfect English but sometimes pretends not to when she wants to observe people without them knowing," Emma whispered as they approached the front door, Lily's hand clutched in Jake's. Grandmother Chen was not what Jake expected. Instead of the frail old woman he'd imagined, he met a diminutive but formidable lady with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a smile that transformed her face when she bent down to greet Lily. "So this is the family you've been hiding from me," she said to Emma, switching her penetrating gaze to Jake. "Your husband is handsome. But his eyes tell me he is kind, which is more important." Throughout dinner, Jake found himself genuinely enjoying Grandmother Chen's company. She told stories of Emma's childhood that had Lily giggling and Emma blushing, something Jake had never seen before. Emma was always serious, even as a little girl, Grandmother Chen said, her eyes twinkling. Always with her books and her plans. "I used to worry she would forget to live while she was busy achieving." Later that night, as they prepared for bed in the suite they'd been given, Jake couldn't help but notice how Emma's professional demeanor had slipped throughout the evening, revealing glimpses of a woman he'd never met before. "Your grandmother is amazing," he said, awkwardly arranging pillows on the small sofa in their suite where he planned to sleep. Emma emerged from the bathroom in silk pajamas, her face free of makeup, looking younger and somehow more vulnerable. "She likes you," she said. "Both of you. She hasn't smiled that much in months." Jake paused. "Is she really dying?" Emma's face fell. "Yes. Pancreatic cancer. She's refused treatment beyond pain management. Says she's lived a full life and doesn't want to spend her final months in hospitals." "I'm sorry," Jake said, meaning it. Emma nodded, then looked at the sofa and frowned. "You can't sleep there. It's too small, and you'll be useless tomorrow if your back seizes up. The bed is king-sized. We can share it without encroaching on each other's space." That night, lying rigid on his side of the bed, listening to Emma's soft breathing, Jake wondered how his life had taken such a strange turn. And why, despite the bizarreness of their arrangement, it somehow felt less lonely than his life before. As weeks turned into months, the lines between pretense and reality began to blur. Emma started joining them for dinner most nights, helping Lily with her art projects, her corporate mask slipping more frequently to reveal a dry wit and unexpected gentleness. Jake found himself looking forward to their weekend visits to Grandmother Chen, who had taken to teaching Lily Chinese and telling her stories about Emma's heritage. He watched as Emma gradually relaxed around her grandmother, laughing more freely, the weight of her corporate responsibilities temporarily lifted. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Their first public appearance at a charity gala hosted by Chen Innovations led to their photos splashed across business magazines and social media, with headlines questioning the Ice Queen's sudden marriage to her assistant. "The board is pleased," Emma said dryly as they scrolled through the coverage. "Apparently I seem more approachable now. Is that all that matters?" Jake asked, unable to keep the edge from his voice. Emma looked up, surprised. "What do you mean? Is this all just about appearances to you? The board's approval? Your grandmother's happiness? What about yours?" Emma stared at him for a long moment. "I don't have the luxury of prioritizing my happiness, Jake. I never have." "That's bullshit," he said, surprising them both with his vehemence. "Everyone has that right. Even the great Emma Chen." Their first real fight came 3 months into their arrangement, when Emma missed Lily's school art show despite promising to attend. Jake found her in her home office at midnight, still working. "She waited for you," he said from the doorway. "Kept looking at the door every time it opened." Emma didn't look up from her laptop. "I had an emergency board meeting. I couldn't get away." "You could have called. Texted. Something." "I don't have to explain myself to you," Emma said, her voice taking on the cool tone she used in the office. "This is an arrangement, Jake. Not a real marriage." The words stung more than they should have. "Lily doesn't know that," he said quietly. "To her, you're becoming family." Emma finally looked up, her expression stricken. "I never meant to hurt her." "Then don't," Jake said simply, turning to leave. "Because arrangement or not, I won't let anyone hurt my daughter. Not even you." The next morning, Jake found Emma sitting at Lily's tiny art desk, carefully writing a note. She looked up when he entered, her eyes red-rimmed from what appeared to be a sleepless night. "I'm apologizing to Lily," she said, her voice rough. "And I've cleared my schedule for Saturday. I thought maybe we could go to that interactive art museum she's been talking about." Jake felt something shift between them. She'd like that. 6 months into their arrangement, Jake realized he was in trouble. Watching Emma teach Lily how to make dumplings in Grandmother Chen's kitchen, flour dusting her cheek and laughter in her eyes, he felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with their agreement. "You look at my granddaughter like a man in love," Grandmother Chen said quietly, appearing beside him with the uncanny stealth of someone half her age. Jake startled. "We're married," he said automatically. Grandmother Chen's knowing smile made him flush. "Yes. But when you came here, you looked at her like an employee looks at his boss. Now you look at her like a man looks at his future." Before Jake could formulate a response, Lily called him over to show him her misshapen dumpling, and the moment passed. But Grandmother Chen's words stayed with him. That night, as they prepared for bed in what had become their routine, Emma broke their comfortable silence. "My grandmother's doctors say she's responding well to the new pain management protocol. They think she might have more time than they initially estimated." Jake looked up from the book he was reading. "That's wonderful news." Emma nodded, but her expression remained troubled. "Jake, I've been thinking about our arrangement." His heart sank. "You want to end it early?" "No," she said quickly. "The opposite, actually. I was wondering if you'd consider extending it beyond the year." Jake set his book down. "Why?" Emma looked away, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of the blanket, a nervous gesture he'd never seen from her before. Lily is thriving at her new school. You seem happier, not working 2 jobs. The board is pleased with my humanized image. My grandmother is doing better than she has in months. It seems practical to continue. Practical, Jake repeated, the word tasting bitter. Yes, Emma said, still not meeting his eyes. Practical. Jake got out of bed and walked to the window, looking out at the moonlit garden. What happens when you meet someone you actually want to marry, Emma? Someone you love? What happens to our practical arrangement then? The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. I should get some air, Jake finally said, grabbing his robe and leaving the room, missing the way Emma's eyes followed him, filled with words she couldn't bring herself to say. The turning point came 8 months into their arrangement, during a business trip to Shanghai. Emma had insisted Jake accompany her, arranging for Lily to stay with Grandmother Chen, who had grown so attached to the little girl that she claimed Lily was keeping her alive through sheer joy. Their hotel suite overlooked the Bund, the city lights reflecting off the river in a dazzling display. After a long day of meetings, Emma kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief that made her seem startlingly human. You were amazing today, Jake said, loosening his tie. He'd attended the meetings as her assistant, watching her navigate complex negotiations with a skill that left him in awe. Emma smiled tiredly. It went well. Better than I expected. The Chen charm worked its magic, Jake teased, pouring them both a glass of wine from the bottle the hotel had provided. Hardly, Emma snorted, accepting the glass. Though your presence helped. You always seem to know what I need before I do. Their eyes met over their wine glasses, and something electric passed between them. Emma, Jake began, not sure what he was going to say but knowing he needed to say something. A knock at the door interrupted them. Emma set down her glass and went to answer it, returning with a large envelope. The final contracts, she explained, sitting down at the desk to review them. Jake watched her slip back into CEO mode, her focus absolute as she read through the documents. He thought about how well he knew her now, how she took her coffee, black, no sugar, her favorite music, classical when working, indie rock when relaxing, the way she always called Lily before bedtime when they were apart. You know, he said suddenly, I've never actually seen you take a vacation. A real one, not a business trip disguised as one. Emma looked up, surprised. I don't have time for vacations. Everyone has time for vacations. They just choose to make time. Emma set down her pen. What's your point, Jake? My point is that you're missing out on life. You're so focused on the future, the next deal, the next milestone, that you're missing the present. Emma's expression hardened. That's easy for you to say. You don't have a multinational company depending on you. No, Jake agreed. I have something more important. A life. People I care about. Moments I don't want to miss. And I don't? Emma asked, her voice dangerously quiet. Jake met her gaze steadily. I think you're afraid to. Emma stood abruptly. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Jake challenged, standing as well. I've watched you these past 8 months, Emma. You light up with Lily. You're different with your grandmother. You're capable of so much joy, but you keep it locked away because it's safer to be the ice queen. Stop, Emma whispered, but Jake couldn't stop now. You're so afraid of being vulnerable that you'd rather live half a life. You'd rather have a fake marriage than risk a real relationship. You'd rather. His words were